At my own graduation party, I stood up with tears in my eyes to thank my family. Before I could speak, my brother shouted, "Don't thank us, you did it all by accident anyway." Everyone roared with laughter while I stood there, frozen. 2 years later, I got the last laugh when they showed up to my company launch and were turned away at the door. I'm the youngest of three, and I was always treated like a side note in my own family. I grew up in Anniston, Alabama. Small place, nothing fancy. If you weren't into football, hunting, or hanging out at the Waffle House, people didn't really know what to do with you. My brother Dean was the star. Everything came easy to him. He was funny, athletic, good-looking, the life of every party. My parents lit up around him. Dad would brag about Dean's touchdowns. Mom posted every dumb thing he said on Facebook like it was deep. Me? I was the smart one. That's what people said when they didn't want to call you weird. I spent hours in our garage on an old PC I pieced together from used parts. Taught myself how to code from YouTube videos. While Dean was getting girls and driving around in a hand-me-down Ford Ranger, I was watching Python tutorials and saving up for domain names. My family didn't get it. "You still on that computer?" my dad used to ask like I was doing something wrong. "You gonna invent Google or just burn your eyeballs out?" Dean would chime in with crap like, "He's building robots to kill us all." And everyone would laugh. Every time. They always laughed at me. I thought maybe it would change when I graduated college. I busted my ass for 4 years. I got a full ride to the University of Alabama, double majored in computer science and business, pulled all-nighters while working part-time fixing busted laptops. I didn't party, didn't date much, didn't waste time. I had a plan. I had to build something real. Something they couldn't ignore. The day I graduated, I drove home with this tiny hope in my chest. Maybe now they'd say they were proud. Maybe now they'd see I was worth something. Instead, I walked into a party that felt like a setup. It was at the VFW hall. Plastic tablecloths, barbecue trays, paper plates. "Congrats Daryl" banner that looked like it was printed on someone's lunch break. People from church were there. My old football coach. Neighbors I hadn't seen in years. I was touched. I really was. Until the moment that destroyed it all. After we ate, my mom called for quiet and said, "Daryl wants to say a few words." I stood up. I had this short speech written. Just wanted to say thanks to my parents for feeding me, to my brother for being the loudmouth who motivated me to work harder. I didn't even blame them for the years of teasing. I thought we'd laugh and move past it. But right as I opened my mouth, Dean stood up too. He raised his cup and shouted, "Don't thank us, man. You did it all by accident anyway." Everyone lost it. The room lit up with laughter. Someone clapped. One of my uncles yelled, "That's Dean for ya." Even my mom had her hand over her mouth like she was trying not to laugh, but failing. I froze. I stood there holding my little note card like an idiot while everyone laughed at me again just like they always had. But this time was different. This was my moment. My achievement. And Dean made it a punchline. That was the last time I ever tried to thank them. I moved back to Tuscaloosa a week later. Stopped returning family calls. Went full ghost mode. I didn't have time for anyone, anyway. I had an idea for a booking system for small service businesses, stuff like dog groomers, barbers, mechanics. I built it from scratch. Slept under my desk for weeks. Sent out hundreds of cold emails. Picked up one client. Then 3. Then 10. By the end of the year, I got into a startup incubator in Atlanta. Got $50,000 in seed money. Hired my first engineer, a guy I trusted from school named Matt. We worked like machines. We named the company Slatebook. Our software started spreading. By year 2, we had 300 plus paying clients across 3 states. People were noticing. So we decided to throw a real launch party for version 2.0. Rented a gallery space in Birmingham. Hired a photographer. Got custom signage, cocktails, live demos. We invited investors, reporters, small business owners, even a few of my old professors. But not my family. I didn't block them. I didn't send nasty messages. I just didn't invite them. I figured they'd hear about it anyway through Facebook or the local business write-ups. I was right. They showed up dressed like they were walking into a wedding. Dean had his sunglasses hanging off his shirt like some kind of tech bro. My dad wore khakis and a golf shirt tucked in, like he was proud. My mom even brought a cake box like this was some family barbecue. They walked up to the registration table smiling like celebrities. And the security guy, his name was Ray, big dude with arms like tree trunks, looked them up and down and said, "Names?" They gave them. Ray checked the list. "You're not on the list," he said flat. My mom laughed awkwardly. "You must be mistaken. I'm Daryl's mom." "I understand. But this is a private event. If you're not on the list, I can't let you in." Dean stepped forward. "Okay, but I'm his brother. This is my family. Let us through." Ray didn't move. No exceptions. I watched the whole thing from the second floor through the glass railing. Holding a glass of champagne. Dean was trying to argue. My mom was turning red. My dad looked like he was about to start yelling. But the guests behind them were getting restless. So a second staffer stepped in and politely escorted them away from the door. They stood outside for a few minutes. I saw Dean pull out his phone, probably trying to call me. I never felt my phone buzz. They left. That night, I stood in front of 200 people and gave the speech I wanted to give 2 years earlier. Only this time, I didn't fake humility. I didn't say thanks to people who didn't believe in me. I said, some people laughed when I said I wanted to build something. I'm standing here today to say, I'm done being a joke. People clapped. One of the reporters asked to quote that line in the article. The next day, Dean left me a voicemail. "Hey, listen. Sorry if you were still mad about that party. It was just a joke, man. You didn't have to freeze us out like that." I didn't reply. It's been over a year since then. We still haven't spoken. My mom sent a Christmas card that just said, "We miss you." No apology. No mention of what happened. I don't need their approval anymore. But I'll never forget the look on Dean's face when that security guard told him no. That moment was mine. After the launch party, everything took off. We got a feature in a regional tech magazine. A VC firm out of Nashville reached out. We didn't take their money, but it was still validating. I finally moved out of my one-bedroom apartment and rented a small townhouse on the edge of the city. Nothing flashy but mine. Even then, a part of me kept waiting for my family to do the right thing. To say sorry. To call and not make it about them. Instead, they started acting like nothing happened. My mom would send short texts. "Saw the article about your software. Looks like you're famous now. Smiling face with smiling eyes," or, "Your cousin Lucas wants to get into computers too, maybe you could help." My dad didn't reach out at all. But Dean? Dean started posting stuff on Facebook like we were best friends. Pictures of us as kids with captions like, "Proud of my little bro, building empires." He even commented on Slatebook's public page once, "Built by a real one. You know I always believed in you, bro." That one hit a nerve. I screenshotted it and texted him directly. "Delete that comment. You don't get to ride the wave now." He replied, "Chill man, I'm just supporting you." Water under the bridge? Water under the bridge. It's always like that with Dean. He sets fires and expects everyone else to bring the bucket. And my parents let him. Always did. I ignored it. 4 months. Until the day my mom called out of the blue and left a voicemail. She said, "Hey baby, call me back when you can. Dean got laid off. Things are tough for him right now. He's looking for work. I thought maybe you could. I don't know, bring him into the business somehow." I listened to that message 3 times. Then I stared at the wall in my office for a while. They really had the nerve to ask me that. After everything. This wasn't just about pride. I'd built Slatebook carefully. Every hire mattered. I paid people well, gave real benefits, respected their time. I wasn't going to bring in my screw-up brother who once mocked me in front of an entire room just because he finally ran out of luck. Still, I didn't respond. I didn't say no. I didn't say anything. That silence must have gotten to them. Because one night a few weeks later, Dean showed up at my office building. It was a Saturday. I was working late. I still do sometimes when I'm overwhelmed. Security called up and said there was someone downstairs claiming to be my brother. I said to send him away. He didn't leave. Instead, he waited across the street until I came down 2 hours later. He came walking over as I unlocked my car. "Daryl," he said. "Just hear me out." I didn't respond. Just looked at him. He looked worse than usual. Hair messy, eyes tired, jacket zipped up too high like a kid trying to look grown. "I messed up," he said. "I know I did. I've messed up a lot. But I'm your brother. I just need a chance. I need something. I thought you'd understand." I said nothing. He kept going. "That joke at your party, it was stupid, all right? I was being a dumbass. I didn't think it would hurt you like that. I didn't think you'd carry it this long. I didn't think it mattered." That part hit hard. Because that's the truth of it. He didn't think it mattered. None of them did. They laughed at me for years. They treated me like background noise. And when I made something of myself, they showed up with smiles and empty hands, expecting to be part of the glory like I owed it to them. I finally said, it mattered to me. Then I got in the car and drove away. Next morning, I got another voicemail from my mom. She was crying. Said I was breaking the family apart. That my dad was ashamed of how cold I'd become. That Dean just wanted a fresh start and I was being cruel. Cruel. That word bounced around in my head for weeks. They always said I was sensitive growing up. Said I overreacted. Said I didn't know how to take a joke. But the second I set a boundary, the second I held them accountable, now I'm the villain. I didn't reply. Instead, I made a choice. I started writing a letter not to send just for myself. I listed every moment they made me feel small. Every time they laughed instead of listened. Every time Dean mocked me and my parents let him. I kept it in my drawer. Read it sometimes when I needed to remember why I did what I did. But things weren't done yet. Because a few months later, a reporter called me, said she got a tip from a family member about Slatebook's early days. She said the tipster claimed I'd stolen the idea from a former employer. That I used money from my parents' savings to build it. That the company wasn't as clean as it looked. I knew immediately. Dean. No one else would have said something that twisted. And just like that, it wasn't just about a joke anymore. It was war. I didn't panic when the reporter called. I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. There was no ex-employer. No money from my parents. Every dollar came from freelance jobs, late nights, and my own savings. But still, the idea that someone was actively trying to tear down what I built. That shook me. I asked the reporter who gave her the tip. She wouldn't say. Standard policy. But she said, they sounded close to you. Claimed they just wanted to set the record straight. I didn't have to guess. It was Dean. I let that sink in for a few days. Sat with it. thought about whether I was overreacting. But then I remembered how Dean worked, how he never handled being left out. How he always pushed things when he didn't get his way. That's when I started looking closer. I had a contact in IT security, someone who used to work with my co-founder, Matt. I told him about the anonymous tip, and he offered to dig a little. Just to be safe, he also checked our systems for any weird access patterns. 2 days later, he called me. "Daryl," he said, "you've got a problem. Someone tried to get into your admin dashboard 2 weeks ago. Multiple attempts. Looked like brute force password testing. They failed, but the attempts came from a local IP from Anniston." Now I was angry. Dean had always been loud. A jerk, sure. But this? This was sabotage. He wasn't just bitter anymore. He was dangerous. He was trying to ruin me. So I called my lawyer. We pulled logs, documented everything, and started building a case just in case things escalated. My lawyer said we couldn't prove Dean was behind it yet, but if he tried again, we'd be ready. I didn't tell anyone I knew. I waited. Then, one day, it happened. A local Anniston news blog ran a short story titled, "Did Local Tech Founder Get His Start with Family Money?" It wasn't a hit piece, just a shady little blog post. But it quoted a family source, who said I had help from home, and that I wasn't the self-made man he pretends to be. The blog barely had readers. But it was enough. That night, I got a call from a Slatebook investor. Nothing aggressive. Just, "Hey, saw a weird little story floating around. We're not worried, just wondering where it's coming from." That was the line. I was done. I called my lawyer again. This time, we filed a formal cease and desist. Not directly to Dean, we didn't have solid proof, but to the blog, demanding removal and disclosure of the source. The blogger panicked. I guess they never expected to be served papers. Within 24 hours, they took the post down and emailed my legal team. The source was Dean ______. Full name. No denial. Just fear. We had our proof. But I didn't sue. Not yet. Instead, I did something worse. I made sure the next version of Slatebook included a new feature, an internal hiring marketplace for vetted workers. Like a job board, but private to paying business users. Then I put out a blog post, one that I wrote. It was titled, "Why I Only Hire People Who Build, Not Tear Down." It was subtle, but I told my story. Not naming names. But I made it clear, in the early days, people mocked me. Later, they tried to sabotage me. But I've learned that those who laugh at builders are the first to ask for a piece when success comes. The post went viral. It got reposted on tech newsletters. Picked up by a small podcast. A few people even guessed it was about family. One commenter wrote, "Bet this dude's brother regrets bullying him now." I didn't reply. I just let it grow. And that's when the final twist came. Dean showed up at my house. I live in a quiet part of Birmingham, not gated, but still private. He must have asked around or dug through something to find the address. He knocked. I didn't answer. He knocked harder. Then he shouted through the door, "You made your point, Daryl. You happy now? You think you're better than all of us?" I just stood on the other side of the door. Quiet. Calm. He kicked the bottom of the door once. Not hard. Then he left. I watched him walk back to a rusted gray Toyota. Not the truck he used to drive. Not the blazer he wore to the launch party. Just a guy who'd finally run out of fake charm. That should have been enough. After Dean came to my house yelling through the door like a child throwing a tantrum, I knew it wasn't over. He wasn't going to walk away quietly. But I also knew I had one last card to play, something I had been building behind the scenes. A few months earlier, during the mess with the blog post and the failed login attacks, I started digging into Dean's online presence. Not just his social media but everything. Old accounts, forum posts, domains he registered, dumb side hustles he tried to start and abandoned. That's when I found something interesting. Dean had started a consulting business. The website looked like it was built in 2009. He used big words like strategic development and entrepreneur mentoring, but the entire thing was built off stolen templates and worse, it listed Slatebook as a past client. I screenshot everything. I had proof he was using my company's name to give himself fake credibility. That's fraud. I passed it to my lawyer. We sent a legal notice to take down the site within 72 hours and cease all use of the Slatebook name. He ignored it. So we filed a formal complaint with the Alabama Attorney General's office. Now Dean had a real problem. They opened an investigation. Apparently, he'd already been under light scrutiny for misleading advertising and failure to deliver paid business coaching to at least 3 people who had filed small claims against him. This just gave them more fuel. He got a call from the state office 2 weeks later. I didn't hear from him directly. But I heard from my mom crying, again. "Why are you doing this to him?" she asked me over the phone. "He's your brother." I finally told her everything. I laid it all out. The graduation party. The sabotage. The fake job board. The anonymous tips to reporters. The login attempts. The fraud website. I said, he did this to himself. You just never wanted to see it. She didn't say anything. Just hung up. A week later, Dean's consulting business disappeared from the internet. The blog post was deleted. And I got an official letter saying the state closed their investigation after a quiet settlement. No charges filed but heavy warnings. He had to refund 3 clients and sign a written agreement not to use my name again. But I wasn't done. Slatebook had grown into more than software. We'd become a platform. We had forums, community groups, and an internal blog where I posted company updates. I wrote a final post not about revenge. Just truth. It was titled, "Some People Want the Credit Without Doing the Work." I didn't name Dean. I didn't have to. I told my story, clearly and plainly. How I spent years being laughed at, told I was just a kid with a laptop, mocked by people who claimed they were just joking. How those same people showed up later wanting in. How real support doesn't look like a joke at your expense. It wasn't a viral post. It didn't need to be. It was mine. It was for every quiet kid who sat in the corner building something while people laughed. It was for me. The aftermath? Dean moved out of state. My mom stopped calling. My dad never spoke to me again. That part hurt more than I thought it would. I'd wanted them to change. I wanted to believe they could. But you can't make people value you. You can only remove their seat from your table. As for me, I'm still building. Slatebook expanded into 6 more states. I hired more people. One day, I was interviewing a young developer who reminded me of myself. Quiet. Nervous. Brilliant. At the end of the interview, she asked, "Can I be honest?" I said sure. She smiled and said, "I saw your post. The one about people laughing at you. That's why I applied. I'm tired of being the joke too." I hired her the next day. And in that moment, I realized something. The real revenge wasn't the door Dean got turned away from. It wasn't the legal papers, or the deleted blog post, or the company he tried and failed to build off my name. The real revenge was this: I won. And I did it without ever becoming like them.